can practice it if you want. Yeah, it's Kshitij.
Kshitij?
Yeah, that's.
Oh,
you got it right.
Kshitij?
This.
Oh my gosh! Shut the front door. Kshitij?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, I'm glad.
Oh, I'm excited that you came back. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute since I've seen you.
Yeah, I think it was last year around this time only, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. So what have you been up to this past year?
So I was working on my skill set for the past year, and I was trying to focus myself, and I was trying to come up with an action plan. At that time last year, I was actually working with the Workforce Development Board, where Samantha is currently working.
Hey, okay.
Actually, I got an offer from Nova because
nice.
one of my friend actually works there, and they were actually looking for an IT project manager. And I told my friend that that I really want to get into like a project management position, although the Workforce Development Board was pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
But I thought I can use my engineering background doing more technical projects, and slightly I wanted to pivot towards that.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
congratulations. So you work at Nova now.
Correct.
Oh my God. So you got like the Sarnia golden ticket.
I mean, a lot of people do think like that, but it's not like that. I mean, I think anybody can get into anywhere. Basically, it's just depend upon. I mean, you have to have a solid action plan, and followed by the skill set that you think you need. So
that's super fair. So you're just as determined as you were last year.
I think so.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I had a plan, and I noted down my 5 years plan when I was at Lambton College, and I thought, hey, I really want to stick to it, because a lot of people do create a plan, but eventually they either just call it off, or they're like, hey, I think it's not going to happen, and
Absolutely. A lot of people lose track in it, and
Correct.
like as soon as like kind of like the train kind of slows down a little bit on like the motivation, it just goes off the rails completely. So I'm so happy for you though.
Yeah.
So in this past year, what is the biggest highlight for you?
I think, as I mentioned, I have started working as a IT project manager at Nova. So I think that's the biggest change that I have gone through, and I'm still going through, because it's I think it's around 7 months now that I've been with Nova.
7 months.
Yes.
Wow.
So
You put in the work then. What's your favorite thing about the job?
I think I'm a people person. I think I have identified my leadership skill as a servant leader. So I like to help people. I like to help the community. So I think that really helped me into picking up this position, because technically I am a Scrum coordinator, which basically means an IT project manager, but it's in a different. It's a different way of doing projects, specifically IT projects. So the main highlight of this position is that you need to serve your people or your team in order to make sure that they are happy at all times, and they are productive.
Oh, nice. So your like style of leadership matches perfectly with the job description.
Correct.
Man, did that feel like incredible to know that?
Yes, I mean, I didn't realize that I was a people's person basically before coming to Canada. So I didn't get a chance to be a manager, but I was involved into a lot of project teams, and I've seen a couple of managers. But everybody has their own style of getting things done, and that specifically matters for this position. So
yeah, I can only imagine. So my sister works at Nova.
yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
She's an
Oh
operator,
my God.
right?
You were there the day she came for the interview too.
Yes.
Oh wow, Kismet! Look at that. That was foreshadowing for you.
I actually told her that if you know anybody who can get into me into Nova, that'll be great.
You've just been manifesting it then.
Yes, I think.
Oh, that is sick.
Was
Honestly, good for you, because obviously manifesting has a lot to do with what you're willing to do, your like mindset work and being mindful of like what kind of vibe you're putting out into the world. But then it also goes into like, are you actually working hard to get there?
Correct.
And I think that like you definitely have been. So that's incredible.
Yeah.
So in terms of your journey here in Sarnia, do you feel like more like concrete in this community now that you have like your kind of dream job?
So that's a question that I've been asked by a lot of people recently, because I actually go to college and I guide students who are in college currently, and that's their biggest question, that hey, what is your feedback about it, like living in Sarnia and all of that. So I think I would say I like being here, as I mentioned it an year before. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that it didn't change.
Yeah, I'm glad too.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think it's a perfect place to be and perfect place to start your career if you're new to working and all of that. But on the same time, I think Sarnia has kind of limited opportunities if you look at. So let's say if you're not into technical background, let's say if you're not into engineering or anything skill trades related stuff. So I think then Sarnia lacks a little bit,
Yeah.
because let's say if you're into banking or finance or any other type of industry, then you'll probably have to look somewhere else.
Yeah, which is super, super fair because I do theater. Like, that's what I went to school for. So I have my master's and bachelor's in it.
Okay.
And Sarnia is phenomenal. Like, our community theater, the Imperial, is incredible. But there's not a lot of like paid opportunities to take it even further and use your education. So I completely agree with that. I lucked out with a good job, but like a lot of people don't unfortunately have that opportunity. So that's such a great point. I never really thought about it being a limiting factor.
Yes, and it is pretty evident than a lot of people think it is, because I think this is the biggest challenge that most of the international graduates experience, and that is the biggest reason why people, I think, in my opinion, are leaving Sarnia, because they don't get like their field jobs in a way.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
fortunate enough to have a technical background. So I did my engineering when I was back in India, and I was working as an engineer. So even before coming to Canada, I somehow had this plan that, hey, even if I fail to be a project manager, I can still use my engineering background to get into, engineering basically, and go to Chemical Valley to find an employment. So I think that was a factor behind me staying in Sarnia and doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So in terms, like, it's kind of cool that you mentioned like you kind of have a mentorship going with college students, like international college students. So what is your like greatest advice that you can give them, like if they're watching right now, they don't go to Lambton, like what would you say?
Trying to come up with a solid action plan is step number one. And even before making your plan, I would say you should know yourself, what you have to bring it to the table, let's say,
Dang,
right?
that's wise. That's wise, Kshitij. Okay.
So I did that when I was getting interviewed for my co-op position, which Samantha was a part of the interviewee panel. So before even preparing for that, my step one was to know myself, because a lot of time you feel like you know everything about yourself, but trust me, you don't know everything about it.
Yeah.
So I did my SWOT analysis. For those who are watching who don't know what a SWOT is, it's basically identifying your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I think that's a solid baseline to start with. So once you have done that, the next step I would say is to come up with an action plan on how you can convert those weaknesses into your strengths and those threats into opportunities, basically. So you need to focus upon that and stick to it. A lot of people do, as I said, do make plans and then they
6
don't
months
abide to
later,
it.
doing the
Correct.
same thing. Yeah.
So it's like a New Year resolution.
Yeah,
Everybody
oh
takes
my
it, but like
gosh.
nobody abides
Absolutely.
to it.
Give
So-
up a week later.
Correct. So yeah, and then I would say research the industry that you want to go into. So let's say I'm taking myself as an example here, but as I said, I wanted to go into Chemical Valley to work. So that was my kind of vision, I would say. So that's when I started understanding what are the types of industry, I mean, not industries, but basically what are the types of companies that are there in the Chemical Valley, and what do they do, what are the products that they sell, what sort of an opportunity they have, and obviously the geographic location as well. So you need to consider all of those factors when you are creating an action plan.
You know, that's actually such a great point because I find my action plan just goes with I like a job Monday through Friday and I would like to be in an office. And like that's it. I don't go into a lot of detail, but that's fascinating that you even mentioned like geographic location.
Correct.
Because you don't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's specifically for the people who don't find like field jobs, at least in Sarnia. So let's say if you know like, hey, I think if I want to get into banking, and you know that, okay, Toronto is a big area where you can find those opportunities. So I think then you should focus upon at least getting into that particular organization, you can always relocate later if you get
Yeah.
like, let's say, hybrid or even work from home opportunities.
Yeah,
So,
which is so nice.
yeah.
That's like the dream. Work from home.
Well, I mean, it's kind of debatable, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's super fair. So in terms of the SWOT analysis, what was your weakness that you had to turn into a strength? Or one of them?
So one major weakness that I identified 2 years ago was I was not very confident, and I'm still kind of reserved person. I don't go out that much. I've got like limited friends too that I hang out with,
Yeah.
basically.
It's not a problem.
But the thing is that since I wanted to get into project management, I realized that project management is basically 90% communication and
Absolutely.
10% your actual other skills, right?
Absolutely.
So I thought like, hey, this is something that I think I need to work upon. And then I came up with like, I started doing mentorship at the college. I started going out, talking to people and trying to, not limit myself, and try to open up a little bit.
Yeah.
But that was hard for me. I think that was the biggest challenge because I had to push myself beyond my boundaries, basically.
Yeah,
So,
which can feel really like uncomfortable.
Correct,
So would you say you're more introverted then?
yes, I would say yes, but I'm kind of extroverted with the right people.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
if
that's
that's
super fair.
yeah,
So you
I
got
think
your
there's
circle.
correct. Yeah, I think that there's a word I've totally forgot about it. I don't know.
Is it introverted extrovert or extroverted introvert?
Not sure. I think there's a. I don't know.
Don't know either.
Yeah, but
yeah,
there is a
that's
word
so
to
cool,
it.
though.
Yeah.
So you challenged yourself to like go past your boundaries and get into that uncomfortable zone.
Correct.
And do you feel like that actually benefited you in the long run, or you're like never doing that again?
No, I think it definitely helped me. As of now, that I'm now started to realize those I would say benefits of me pushing myself beyond the boundaries. So I think it really helped me. But now since I wouldn't say that I've overcome that fear, but I think I'm close to overcoming it. And once I'm done, I need to start reevaluating myself so that I know what exactly now I need to focus upon in the future.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah.
I feel like when you mentioned the confidence thing, just to go back to the first point, I also feel like a lot of people struggle with that. Like I feel like everyone in our age bracket kind of has like low confidence in terms of the workforce and what you bring to the table, like professionally. So do you feel like you have a better footing in that now?
Yes, I would say yes. I think so. And see, the thing is that for me, since I'm not from Canada, I came from India 2 years ago. So for me, it was more challenging because I had no leads basically.
Yeah, there's a lot
before
of barriers
correct.
going up.
So I was like, I had too many questions and too less answers. So I was like, hey, either I could just sit down and suffer, or I could at least try to see if it works. And luckily for me, it worked. So
good.
I'm glad that I.
But
took
that's
that
also
chance.
a good mindset to have, that it's better to try and fail than to not try at
Correct.
all. Yeah, absolutely.
No.
So in terms of your threats, what was a threat that you had to turn into an opportunity?
So I think the biggest threat 2 years ago for me was not getting a meaningful employment. I would say because that time I was still attending school, so I had no leads pretty much of where I'm gonna be working as, and I didn't wanted to do just regular jobs because I thought like those jobs are not for me. No offense to anybody doing that.
Definitely.
So, but I thought like, hey, I'm not made for such things, and I could not work in a restaurant and stuff like that. So I had to push myself so that I can skip those opportunities and find a meaningful employment if it makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Well, because meaningful means something different to every single person. That's
correct.
what's so beautiful
that's
about
subjective.
that. So for you to say like that's not for me, that's actually better, because then you're not, taking the job from somebody else who finds that meaningful work, which is like really awesome. So for you to skip that, do you face any like imposter syndrome for skipping things, or do you feel like really confident in those decisions?
I think I still feel like that. I think I never claim to be like the smartest person in the room. So I'm always like, I'll try to limit myself unless until I know everything about it.
Yeah.
And the second thing is that since I have been with working at Nova, I still feel like I am the imposter in that way, because everybody else who I'm working with has amazing I would say knowledge, technical knowledge, let's say, or even they have more experience than what I have.
Yeah.
So I think I try to. I mean, it's not like that I can't give my opinions and stuff like that, but I just limit myself. I'm a huge believer in listening, so I like to listen rather than speaking, basically. So
Yeah.
I don't like to speak that much, but I like to listen and then probably make few comments if it's absolutely necessary to make. So
I can
yeah.
see why being a project manager would be meaningful to you then, because like I feel like management is all about listening. I feel like the managers that just start talking and without listening, they make so many mistakes. So for you, that's like really interesting that like your threat was finding meaningful work and you didn't have the connection. You turn that into an opportunity. You turn your weaknesses into strengths, and now you actually are finding meaningful paths in your life.
Correct. Yeah. So now I'm seeing the benefits, or the benefit realization phase is now where I'm at.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. That is so awesome. So in terms of imposter syndrome, because this is one of my favorite topics to talk about with young professionals, because I face it every single day of my life. Like I'm like, I don't deserve anything.
I think everybody faces it.
Absolutely. What do you think from your perspective is the root of that? Like what does it stem from?
I think there are like too many factors, honestly, in my opinion. I think uh, it depends upon the individuals, because everybody is so different. Everybody brings different skill set, different experience, different opinions for that matter. So everybody brings something different to the table, and that's when the person thinks that, hey, if I bring this to the table, is it even going to be relevant to what others think is relevant?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's the most, in my opinion, that's the limiting factor, and that is how a lot of people think that they are the imposter basically. And
Oh yeah, definitely. So how do you overcome that in your day to day?
I think it all comes down to listening. I think because
Oh, you big listener.
correct,
I
yeah,
like it.
I like I'm an active listener. So let's say if I'm into a room where I've got like 10 different people having 10 different types of experiences, education, skill set, all of that. So I would like to listen to them first, see what they think about it, what's their perspective, how they want to take things on, and then based on that I basically customize my idea
Wow.
and then present it. So it's more of a customized approach that I take rather than just dumping everything on the table and, hey, this is all I've got,
Yeah.
and here it is. So
Honestly, that's so smart because not a lot of people, again, in our age bracket do that. Like the self-editing of being like, I'm not just going to split out like everything that I've ever been told in my whole life to give you advice. I'm actually going to think about this. I'm going to think about you as a person. I'm going to feel your emotions. And actually, that's really awesome. Look at you go. You're just killing it in life.
I mean, I don't think so. Honestly, I think
forget, fair.
I think there's still a lot of things that I need to either learn or at least give it a try before I consider myself in a very good spot.
No, that's super
yeah.
fair. What's one thing you're working towards now?
Currently, I'm working on few certifications that I have to take, just so that I can have it on my resume.
Fair.
And also, I think they'll open up more opportunities, not just at Nova, but across the industry that I am into. So I think that's gonna be helpful. So yeah, so that's number one thing. And secondly, I'm trying to spend more time with my family, which I couldn't for like last 2 years because I was unable to go back home. So I've decided to at least visit them every year.
Oh, that's so nice because now you have the opportunity and the flexibility
yeah.
too.
I mean, and before that, it was kind of different, and it was kind of difficult for me to go back home because first of all, I was a student and I had limited budget to
absolutely.
make things work, and secondly, the thing is when you're a student, you have got like too many things to do, so you need to go to school, obviously, then go to work, take care of yourself, and all of that. So I think that didn't give me enough chance to go back home and do all of that. But now I think since I only am working one job and that's only what I'm doing, so I think I have now enough time to do that as well.
Oh, that's so nice. So what's your favorite thing to do with your family when you go visit?
I think I love my mother's cooked food basically. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
my number one thing that I like. So I like helping my mother, although I cannot cook anything.
Oh, same here. Was never taught.
Yeah.
Don't even know.
So I am just like kind of an assistant chef in
Yeah.
my
Oh,
kitchen,
okay. Yeah.
and then yeah, I have a dog. His name is Max. He's 3 years old now,
Aw.
and yeah, so he's my best friend.
Oh, that's so cute.
So I'm really excited to go and see him. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So, how do you balance like the work and like personal life? Like, how do you balance that out?
So is that a question revolving around like work-life balance,
Yeah, like,
basically?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I think it's really important for you to, understand where you're at. And by that means, let's say I've seen a lot of people, carrying their work laptops or even work phones with them all the time.
Yeah.
And and that's the biggest issue in my opinion, because I don't do that. I didn't even opted for that.
Yeah, no.
Because I'm like, hey, if I'm done at, let's say, 4:30 in the evening, I'm gonna leave all of my equipment right in my office, and I'm not gonna be worrying about it till the time I come back the next day.
Which is such a great skill to have. I feel like that's a new skill that people can bring to the table. Because, like, in my parents' generation and my grandparents, that was like a big no. Like, you bring your work home, you're a workaholic, you're gonna work 24/7. And now our generation's like, no, like that's not gonna happen. And I'm gonna clock off and I'm just gonna not even think about what's going on.
Yeah, and
Which
I
is, like,
think
really good.
yeah, and I think it also depends because I mean, no offense, but like a lot of people, what they do, they try to lose their productivity if they are like in an office environment. So what happens is, let's say if they had to do X amount of tasks in a day, they would not finish all of them, and at the end, and then they would be worrying about,
Yeah.
about all of those pending tasks that they need to take care to the next day. So I think making sure that if you are at work, you are totally invested into your work and try to, limit the amount of distractions. So one thing that really helps me is kind of a thing called time boxing. So what I
Okay.
do is I make a list of items that I have to do that particular day. So kind of a to-do list. And I usually assign a set amount of let's say minutes or hours for that particular work item. So let's say if I have to do a meeting, I'll probably, even if I have to do that meeting, I need to prep, let's say. So I'll assign myself, let's say, 15 minutes to do that. And those 15 minutes, I'll just try to focus upon that particular work item and I'll try to get it finished.
Oh, nice.
So before moving into the
good for you.
next task.
That's like really smart, and like to schedule things out. I tried to do that and then my brain just goes like nuts. Like so you just have like really good like focus abilities.
Yeah, I mean, because when I was working back in India, I was kind of, affected by that because I used to lose my concentration really quick. Let's say if my coworker was like, hey, what are you gonna eat tonight? And I'm like, oh no, and then I would just totally get
just,
into
like,
that
shoot the
and
shit for a while. Yeah.
correct. So but I think and even that, let's say if you do the time boxing thing, you need to make sure that you take breaks in between. So let's say so what I do usually is I take 5 minutes break every hour. So either I'll take a tour of my office, I'll go see somebody, or I'll go have a cup of coffee, or do pretty much anything other than work.
Yeah.
So probably check my phone, LinkedIn,
Give
stuff
your
like
brain
that.
a break.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so smart. So that helps you basically have like a good personal life outside of work. Like you're able to like fully be present and just enjoy your life.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to try doing that. Just a
Yeah,
little
you
bit more
should,
like
actually.
tighter timeline than I normally do.
Yeah, I mean, I recently studied this particular type of I don't know if it's a skill, I don't know, but like this way of doing things, and I think it's really productive in my opinion.
Yeah,
so,
honestly. So what's your favorite thing to do in Sarnia?
That's a tough question. I would say go at the beach probably. Yeah.
Okay, there
That's
you go.
what I
The
do.
beach is the best. Even in like winter, it's still
Yeah,
nice.
and Sarnia strangely resembles a lot to where I'm from, basically from my city. So, so yeah, it always gives me of feeling that I'm still at home,
Oh,
but not
yeah.
at home.
And
So
hearing the waves, hearing all
correct.
that.
So it's
Oh,
kind of
that's
relaxing
amazing.
sometimes.
Oh
So,
my God,
yeah.
I love that answer because that's like usually my answer
Oh,
too. So
okay.
look at that, beach days ahead of us.
Yeah.
But this is the final question.
Sure.
So what are your final words for everybody who's watching and listening? Do you have anything to promote, anything to say, any advice you'd like to give?
So for those who are watching this show, I would suggest you guys to first of all, don't underestimate yourself. First of all, because I think that's the biggest mistake that you guys can do. Secondly, as I said, come up with something, some sort of an action plan. Try to stick to it, and make sure that you have a vision, not just a short-term goal. There is a difference between having a vision and a goal. So make sure that you are being a visionary, and try to understand yourself as much as you can. Try to know yourself better, and yeah, I think, and the last thing that I would say is try to manifest. I think manifestation does help, and I think it's really an amazing thing to have in our lives. So yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. That was like some wise words. We get some snaps up in here. That's so nice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madison.
Bye, everyone.
See you.
That was awesome. Look at us go. Take two, eh?